Welcome to NFT Sundays, a weekly conversation around art and technology, brought to you by DMINTI and the Museum of Crypto Art. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of NFT Sundays. I am Colborn Bell, Museum of Crypto Art. Special thank you to DMINTI on production, and I am joined today by a dear friend, legendary crypto artist, trash art historian, the great Eric Rhodes, Second Realm. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise, my friend. It always gets interesting when you are involved. Let's start where we always start. I'm going to ask you anything you want to tell us about yourself and how you came to be in this wonderful space.
Yeah, sure. So I sort of just found it by happenstance, actually. I was already investing in crypto art, in crypto, and sort of was going through a difficult time in my life with some mental health journey, with my own mental health journey. And I happened to just type in crypto and art into Twitter one day and fell down this really beautiful, wonderful rabbit hole that is the NFT landscape. We didn't call it NFTs back then. Sort of just called it crypto art. It was a lot more fun and exciting to me back then. But, here I am today. I didn't think we'd be here today, to be perfectly honest with you.
I am right there with you. I can only speak back to that early time. I myself was struggling. I was looking for personal identity. I found this group of incredibly diverse, robust weirdos who just kind of really believed in something different. Can you just describe like the emotions and feelings of what that early beginning was like?
So for me, in the very beginning, I was practicing art in public, but in a very quiet corner of the internet. So it felt very it felt very safe to me. And through that, just sort of found this really amazing community of trash artists, friends like Colin, Robness, Max, you, Sats Moon, like all these crazy people that not crazy, but like awesome people that I never would have met. But I did that just through sort of experimenting in this world of crypto art. And here we are today. It's 2 years later from when 3 years from when I dropped my first Genesis piece. And wow, I'm surprised and happy I have this career as an artist, something I've dreamed about since I was a kid. And when we were I called it play around. When we were playing around in this space and sort of seeing if the technology could work at scale, I didn't think that I'd spend the next 2 years like living full time as on crypto as a creator and like finding this community. It gave me life. I said in an interview in 2020, Trash Art Week 2020 with Coldy, the trash artists came together and I had expressed that the community saved my life, and it really did. It gave me purpose. I was going through really difficult mental health issues at the time. My marriage was shit. My life was, my career, I was going in, what do they call it? I was burning out from my career. Like I just needed to find a new place to discover who I was, and I found it. And it found me, and you all like helped nurture who I am today, just by being friends and like sharing crazy art ideas.
I mean, that resonates so deeply with me, my journey, and I think a lot of people's journey in the beginning was very similar. It was just a strange, experimental, kids in a sandbox place. I feel like everybody was very free to voice their opinions. There might have been some controversy, but it was familial, there was like love and a safe space for us to just be creative, be experimentative. So where was your first mint?
Super rare, actually.
I thought it was.
Yeah. And I didn't know. So I applied to Super Rare I got accepted to Super Rare April of 19, but I didn't mint my first token until July or June of 19 because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what it meant to mint or tokenize, and I didn't know that Super Rare was this prestigious platform that I had got accepted to. I had no clue. I knew nothing about the community. So for me, I was just sort of like fumbling through. Like, I really consider myself that my experience is very similar to Alice in Alice in Wonderland.
We're on a path in parallel, right? My journey as a collector started on super rare, and I come from kind of a tradition of like digging in the crates. You know, there were years of unacquired pieces that had been minted, so much history depth. You could tell in the very beginning that nobody really knew what they were doing. You know, there was like some incredibly beautiful pieces, and there were, you know, pieces that were like forgotten or like heavy glitch or mimetic. I think everybody just trying to kick the ball around and kind of see what stuck. All to say, you know, I would go in and I was just throwing out very low ball bids on whatever I liked, you know, 100 bids a day, with no expectations. And I'd wake up to like a flurry of emails, of my bid was accepted. And, you know, it's like $20. One of my first piece was Max Osiris. I think I paid $26 and flipped
Wow.
it 2 months later for $83. And I felt like a genius.
Yeah. I remember getting excited about like $5 sales and watching people like Xcopy talk about $5 sales, and like this, you know, it didn't seem like reality. Like, holy shit, here we are trading and selling digital art at scale, and or seemingly at scale to us at the time. And and it's for crypto that can be converted to dollars. You mean I'm really making money on something I've been doing as a passion for how old am I? 30. I forget how old I am. 40
Yeah.
something. But for many years, like 25 plus years, right? I've been doing art, and now I get to sell it and make money off it. Crazy.
Speak more about that. I'd love to hear it. Like just the foundational aspect of how that empowered you, because I think that power
Mm-hmm.
very much continued to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah. So, you know, I come from traditional art world, art background, where you had to have an MFA, or you had to be very wealthy. And that was the way you got into the gallery system and made money. Or you could do sort of the gig economy and become an illustrator or a designer, and you worked and made money that way. But it was always at the hands of someone else, right? There was that middleman that was required to that was required for. I felt like this was the language that I had learned and what I was being told, that there was a middleman, and I had to connect with that middleman in order for them to accept my creations and then be able to sell it, right? Whether that was design or whether that was digital illustration or whether that was fine art, right? I didn't come from the mindset of the or what would you call, like, people who go to flea markets and stuff like that. I didn't come from that entrepreneurial background, so I didn't think like that. And so when I saw this world happening, it was for me just a place to experiment at first. And I was like, maybe you know, I'm interested in crypto. I mean, maybe I could make $100, you know, and turn that into Bitcoin. And how cool would that be? That was literally the mindset at first. Uh, but the feeling of like selling work and someone validating it, validating you as an artist because they bid on a piece of work. You didn't have to shill it. People were just interested in the artwork itself. That was new for me, and that really shaped me as an artist today. And you know, when I got kicked off of Super Rare, it shaped me as an artist even more, because now I could no longer rely on the halo effect of the premier platform and that being a signal to other collectors. So I had to learn how to like create this value for myself. So I kept growing as an artist. It's just been, I don't know, I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Wading through the dark, like hand in hand all together. before we get into your unceremonious removal from Super Rare, uh,
Yeah.
what you were very early to that I appreciate and I've been increasingly obsessed with is just like the immediate responsiveness of digital art to culture. You had some very highly charged political pieces.
I
Those
did.
are what, yeah, attracted me to your work.
Mhm.
I loved the style. I loved the aesthetic. Um, so maybe you could just speak to that, the immediacy of the culture, and then we can speak to how that immediacy of culture
Sure.
kind of, yeah.
It's dangerous to be responsive to culture in an immediate visual way. Um, or at least that was my perception of it at the time. And the way that I wanted to be dangerous about it was make connections between Trump and Hitler, which,
Yeah.
that's honestly looking back now, I could have been, I would say I could have been a better artist and um, did it with more forethought. And here's the reason why. I had some, 2 or 3 years since then. If we're going to connect or relate somebody visually to Hitler, that person better be as bad or worse than Hitler. And I don't like Trump. I never did. Didn't like his personality. Um, I couldn't get behind a lot of his personal politics. And so it was really personal to make that connection. But when I think about it, I was foolish isn't the right word. I was naive, I think, a little bit in using that imagery, but it's there and I did it.
And I think ultimately it foreshadows a lot of the future journey, right? We were seeing this rise in like popular politics and anger and a lot of just like ideology being directed down onto people. And I think
Yes.
when Robness dropped the 64-gallon totter, right, and he was removed from Super Rare, I think there was kind of a immediate reaction to that. So maybe you can speak about that moment and what you were feeling then.
Yeah, I was mostly an observer to trash art at that point. It wasn't even trash art. It was sort of like Rodness doing his trash gifts, Max creating havoc and pushing the boundaries, and Jay Delay doing it outside of Super Rare and with his spam art, like their addresses, right? And everybody has access to them. So if you know whose address it is, you could just, I mean, gas was so fucking low. I remember times looking at my MetaMask and be like 0 cents to transfer. It's not 0 cents, but the it was
A
just super.
dollar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe even less. I don't even know. And and so there was a lot of pushing against what was expected because the concept of decentralization, I think we were a little bit had a utopian vision of what that could be, right? Where platforms that were entering the space, there was an expectation from at least from me and maybe some of the other trash artists, maybe not everybody, but the bulk of us, where gatekeeping was something that we weren't going to do anymore because this new blockchain way of trustless environment, allowed us to experiment and explore and keep the community open. But what we soon realize is that some teams hide behind their terms of service or their more influential collectors, the whales at the time, and they will, if they didn't like what they were seeing or they thought that art that was too glitchy or trashy looking was going to devalue their current collection, they were pushing to remove those artists. The exact opposite of what the ethos of, at least I think the utopian ethos of decentralization was meant to be. I think there's a happy balance that we're learning to sort of wade through, but at the time, boy, was it divided.
I was going to comment on that. The especially tenuous relationship between the marketplace operators, what could be considered more fine artists on the site, the big whale collectors, and then just like this rebellious band of troublemakers, the utopians, the idealists. Um, so when that moment occurred, of course, it was pivotal. It exposed and brought to the surface all of these interesting kind of like market dynamics that are in conflict or contrast with the artist as the creator and pure expressive. So, and then of course, there were just not the tools, right? The artists show the builders the tools that they need, and then people respond and move, artwork and capital accordingly. So, from there, Rarible was born, and we saw, a large exodus. And, perhaps you want to speak then on, your subsequent commentary and how that, kind of inflamed the powers that be.
Yeah, so I remember when Robness started selling more glitchier art on Super Rare, and I was like, look at this guy. It's not the traditional what people would expect to be fine art, right? It isn't 3D modeled. It isn't smooth. It isn't pretty. It's not meant to be pretty, right? And I think that at first I was uncomfortable with that, but I soon realized how attractive that was to me personally. And then he got kicked off. And I've always been a proponent of this idea that creators help. No, we need to be able to comment on the culture. We need to be able to have the freedom to use imagery that would otherwise be considered, and I say dangerous because to corporations, artists are dangerous. To culture, artists are dangerous because we shine the light and we reflect on what it is that people don't want to see. And the reality is, what Robness ended up showing us was the dynamic ended up being the same as the traditional art world. Yeah. And not only did him getting kicked off prove that, the support he garnered from it also continued to show that. But there was an appetite from us, from other supporters, other artists, people like you, who saw it as the next evolution in the way art can be represented.
I want to go back and kind of speak to like the mode of distribution because, I think also where they got in trouble was that they were creating, minting, and selling for dollars, right? It went to the Druid for $5. It went to, whoever, these early people who just put a bid in, they just wanted it in and out the door. And then they kind of left it up to those secondary market sales to kind of recoup the value. And it's so interesting to me that, many of like the great artists or many of the great pieces, a lot of that stuff in the beginning was really given away for free.
Yeah, there's a long-standing debate about it's sort of in the background now, but it still exists. This concept that we're supposed to not mint our art at a rate that's too much for the community to handle, so that it drives this vision of scarcity that these ROI collectors want to have and hold. And that was one of the things that I think we as a collective, and I use the word collective as a small c, not the big C, because we're not organized that way. Yeah, we're not a formal collective. We proved that interest in the artwork has very little to do with how much of it is out there in the world, right? It's not scarcity that matters, it's demand, right? But scarcity was something that I think is conceptually these, and I hate to use this derogatory term, but I'm going to, DeFi Chads had a mental model of, and when they transitioned from, cryptocurrency land into NFT land before PFPs, because then PFPs actually helped amplify their perspective. But one art became sort of like, especially trash art, became an antithesis of that model. And then we saw the community sort of go right back to that model with PFPs, unfortunately, and sort of push it one-on-one art in the background. But I think that time in 19 and 20 is going to be unique and special for the rest of the history of art on the blockchain, and I'm happy to be there, have been there for it.
It should be uniquely studied because it was, again, just like the most utopian. It was the most art that I saw. It was the furthest from the model, and it was the most disruptive. And I think,
Completely.
like you say, we're finding this happy medium right now.
One of the things that I think is important to bring up is like the concept of the remix. Today, we're seeing all kinds of derivatives of all kinds of projects, and those collectors willingly and happily collecting those derivatives that reflect the ones that they have in their collection. That's
And
completely.
you led that. Let's be real. Like, you led that. Yeah. So let's talk about that project, if you would.
Well, so I think it's important to talk about trash art and its relationship to unofficial punks, which is where I'll go to that.
Yeah.
But trash art, we pushed the boundary of the remix. Rob Ness with his toter, right, was a photomoshed toter from a Home Depot website, right?
Probably 2 minutes to create,
if that.
Yeah.
If that. Right? It was a click. Probably took longer for him to upload it and mint it than it did for him to make it.
Definitely.
And so but he got kicked off for that. So we, as trash artists, we doubled down. We started remixing artists that agreed with us, like Packatow. I call it Packatow, but it's Hackatow and Pack, or Murat Pack, who were, and some others like Coldy. I think he was a supporter, but he's changed a little bit today, and I'll call it out. He didn't vote for us. I'll call it right here. This is some alpha I've been holding on to. He didn't vote for our reinstatement onto Super Rare. He has 1.6 million rare and could have flipped the tide at any point. It's his right to do that, of course, but being a super holder and a quote unquote friend to trash art, I would have expected at least him vote Rob Ness. He didn't even vote Rob Ness. And so that anyway, that kind of that's something I've been holding on to, and I wanted to just shout it out here.
Air it out. Yeah.
But so anyway, the remix, I remixed a whole lot of people because of their anti-trash art sentiment, anti-remixing sentiment, which led me to the unofficial punks, which for me is an extension of trash art. It is an extension of the remix culture that we were already sort of pushing and already sort of doing. But what I saw an opportunity for was this. There was a gap. Punks were untouchable.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to remix. Nobody thought of remixing them in the conceptual way that I did. And so I did it. And then this sort of created permission for other artists to sort of flood in and feel comfortable doing that. But up until that point, they were the premier, pristine, nobody touched them, nobody fucked with them. And then I did. And it just blew the gates wide open. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, 2 months later, fortunately for a lot of collectors, the apes came in April. So that happened February of 21. Apes come April of 21, and they just changed the dynamic completely because of their way they dropped their artwork, the roadmap that everybody has a roadmap these days. The idea of the roadmap showing that there's a long-term vision for it, that was all, new to the community.
Yeah.
And then it evolved from there, right? Now you see doodles, you see ghosts, and then you see derivatives of all of them mashing up into each other, made by community members and fans of the community, and maybe even some rug pullers and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think any of that's possible in our space without Trash Art first making it comfortable for everybody to consider the remix, and then for unofficial punks to sort of opening the gates and opening the floodgates for that to be possible.
And it was your iconic piece, right? That was the Hackatow remix with the whale in the bowl. Was that you?
That was me. Yeah, so
Yeah, that one was
that's
tight.
the piece that got me kicked off Super Rare. I never minted it on Super Rare. I just threatened to mint it on September 1st on Twitter. And then on September 2nd, 2020, I got an email from John, you know, and he politely, in the most corporate kind of way, said I had said I didn't want to be part of the platform anymore, which I never did. And all I asked for was for their terms and the way that they interpret and make decisions off those terms be similar. It seemed to me that they were targeting Max. It seemed to me that they were targeting very specific people at the request of very other specific people, specifically Whale Shark and specifically Hackatow and Pack, in my opinion. And so I remixed a Hackatow using all of Whale Shark imagery, including the whale logo inside, and it was sort of my interpretation. It was like it's how we it's doing what you had said in your very famous quote. I'm like addressing the moment in history using art, right? And they didn't like that, and they didn't like it, so they booted me off the platform.
People were saying with images what we wanted to express with words, and it was much more powerful in that visual medium.
Yeah, of course it is, because it's less controlled, right? Like the interpretation is subjective as opposed to objective.
And it's permanent, uncensorable speech that is tied to the blockchain. Like, you cannot escape that fundamental right of the artist to bring this work from anywhere in the world, regardless of who they are, if they're public, if they're not, and have that message be shared. And I think that's so core to what crypto art is.
Yeah, and I ended up minting that piece on Rarible, go figure, and Red Lion Eye, the guy who runs that magazine, that beautiful, really well done magazine. He ended up buying it, and he bought FU, which was one of my last pieces on Super Rare, and it's just titled the letter F, the letter U, and I put in there it's about fair use. So I used the Hackatow logo. I mean, the Pack logo, and inside it was the Hackatow eye, and it was just spinning. Yeah.
Super cool piece. Why don't we talk also, I mean, because you weren't done there, you transitioned to the people's potato.
Yes.
So let's talk
the
about
award-winning
that.
The award-winning people's potato.
Yes.
A low effort trash artwork that was moshed in about as much time as Rob Ness's toter. I minted that in response to a conversation where, again, man, Super Rare must have really I must have been really focused, and they must have been really sort of pushing me, like, personally, because there was a conversation Max and Zach had, Super Rare Zach, about I had made a tweet about there were 1 billion assets on Rarible, and of course Zach had a comment, and he was sort of like, well, yeah, where 400,000 of them are Max Osiris's, potato rows or something. And I called it, the people's potatoes, what I called, like, I think I responded to that. And I was sitting down on my computer. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fucking mint 1 billion potatoes. Can I do it? Is it possible? Will Rarible let me do it? Like, this was the thought process. And I just did it. I minted 1 billion of them, not realizing what it was going to become or how I would use it. It was totally in response, once again, to that moment, to create a piece of artwork, low effort, in the trash art style, and here I end up, unbeknownst to myself, basically creating a non-fungible token.
Yeah. It's incredible. Why don't we just like fast forward to where we are
Mhm.
now? Um, and just broadly, I know we never expected it. How does it feel? Where do you think we've won, and what remains to be done?
I'm taking a beat to think about this question because
Naturally.
it has been on my mind and I have been working through it creatively as I reflect on the last 3 years. But I've taken, me personally, what was sort of hobby-esque and a fun playing, I felt like I use the visualization of a baby in a sandbox with a hammer,
Yeah.
right? They will use it to dig, they will use it to bang, they will use it to, you know, as a crutch, they will use it in all different kinds of ways. And that's how we were thinking about the blockchain and art in 2019 and 18, right? And so and before that. And so I try to take that concept, internalize it for myself, and continue to do that today. But I'm certainly more business minded and entrepreneurial about it. I've read, my studio is Second Realm Studio. That's why I ended up transitioning from Second Realm, the pseudonym, to Eric, the artist, and I run a studio called Second Realm, which is where all of my art is delivered through. I want to fashion myself as a as I mean, I want to be so bold as to say, like, I want to become a super famous artist. Um, I have those visions. I don't think if you can't leave it up to chance. So for me, it's really about just taking everything I've learned, especially all the fights that I've had in the past, like fighting for my place in this space, taking the lessons about that, being true to myself though. Like I'll never respect Pack or Hackatel or Whale Shark, and we might, I don't even know what these people look like, and they may shake my hand out there in the world, and I don't really care if they do, and if they don't pretend, if they want to pretend. But if I knew who they were, the things that I've said online are the things I would still say to their face today. And there's a I give everyone 100% implicit trust. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've that trust has been lost with them. So I don't know that they could ever get it back from me. But that's okay. I'm not a collector. I'm a creator.
Right.
I think I'm on the same level as them. Maybe collectors don't, but I feel like I am. So for me, where I am today is this is a business for me, and it's a creative passion for me, and the fact that I get the opportunity to do it uh, is special. I never want to lose the trust that I've gained with my collectors. So I'll always be the person, that stands up for what I think is right in that moment. And then if I'm wrong, I will admit it, you
Yeah.
know. But that's what I think about where I am today. This is a business for me.
But it's the power of the voice of the artist,
Yeah.
right? It just speaks to again that fundamental freedom, and I feel like crypto was always kind of like the bastion of free thought and free ideas and capital being transferred to that. And in a world that becomes increasingly sterile, in metaverse environments that become increasingly sterile, these people are few and far between and very special. So just like having watched, I want to give my gratitude to everything that you've done. And I hope we all continue to find ways to continue to break out of the box and definition and continue to show, the true power of crypto art.
I agree with that. I think I tend to be ahead of the curve a little bit. Like I was playing with liquidity mining and NFTs in 2020 before PFP products even thought about doing that, right? As part of their roadmap. Like, for me, these are all art experiments. This whole experience is an experiment for me. But for the first time, I feel like I'm actually giving a voice to the person I've been hiding my entire life.
Mm,
That's what this allows me to be. The snarky, dude with an attitude who's actually got a heart of gold, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the real person. That's who I am. And I get to be that here. In corporate America, I had to pretend. I had to
Right.
like kowtow to the fucking assholes in the suits upstairs. I don't do that here. If I respect you, I respect you. If I lose respect for you, I've lost respect for you. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like as my own person, and my own business, I get to do that. And that's really
Yeah.
powerful. And I think that's the power that you're talking about for an artist. All artists have the ability to own their power.
Yeah, it's Godfather vibes. It's like very loose mafia, you know? It's principled. And that's what I like about it, you know, because it's familial. So once you break that family trust, once you break that circle, it's just, and it's implicit trust until it's removed. And a lot of my experiences brought me to similar realizations. Um, did it feel like redemption to be reinstated?
No, no,
It's just old news. Yeah.
it felt necessary for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought if they didn't, honestly, I didn't care so much if I wasn't going to get reinstated, but if Max and Robness didn't, um, I thought, well, that would just prove to me, um, that the system was kind of broken, right? But what I didn't realize was how much support we did garner. There was almost 100% yes vote on all of us. How wonderful that is. So really it goes out to the community. And that's why I keep thanking the rare community. I purposely don't thank super rare, although Zach did vote for us. Um, I purposely don't thank super rare because I don't think it was them who should be thanked. For me, not redemption. It is what it is. I have something really special planned. Um,
Super.
really, really special, working with a few artists to drop something. And then once that's dropped, I'll never mint on that platform again. I'm a collector by, being part of the crypto art NFT world. And I talk a lot about some of the projects I'm a part of, like, Royal Society of Players or Crypto Skulls and things like that. And I try to do it in a way that shows people these aren't paid shills. These are things that I'm just actively involved in as a community member. And as an artist, I find it really difficult sometimes, especially in this community, where the shill is an art form for some of these scammers and spammers and rug pull projects to like do it in a thoughtful way without people feeling like I'm also part of the shill culture.
Yeah.
And so, and at the same time, yet I still have to shill my own artwork, right? So, and it's marketing. It's all marketing. So I struggle with that still, being an honest community member, and yet what does that perception look like? So that's sort of been top of mind lately.
I'm right there with you as we look to get the museum sustainable and trying to, sell people a room within the museum and a product and, the constant weight of marketing. It's a challenge for somebody like me, just like very idealistic. And we have just a couple more minutes, so I think we have time
Mhm.
for one more question. And I'm going to
Sure.
make it just like a totally out there, different question. But I'm curious on your take of this idea of the metaverse. If bringing people into digital spaces will ultimately prove dystopian, or what is this like cost benefit that you see in inviting people into digital realms and worlds?
Well, I think my immediate reaction is, where are people going to in the NFT space now to connect? They're going to LA, they're going to Miami, they're going to New York, they're going to physical locations, right? I think the physical aspect will always outshine and outweigh a metaverse experience. We're human, we need physical contact, we crave it on a biological level to be next to people, to be with people who are interested in the things we're interested in. So I think that they'll end up being sort of like e-commerce websites, a user interface that allows people to eventually connect and come together and meet each other in the real world. Somebody who does that really well will end up being, I think, the winner in the end. I don't think Ready Player One is like that utopian vision of the Ready Player One experience. I don't think it's. I think it's ultimately dystopian in nature, and they prove it in the movie, right? They
Yeah.
shut they shut that metaverse down for 2 days so people can connect. Like even in science fiction, they're thinking about how to shut down the metaverse.
Yeah. All right, Eric, you have been absolutely wonderful. Please give people one last tidbit of wisdom, final words, any advice you want to share, and let people know where to find you.
Sure. Yeah. Mental health is something I'm truly passionate about. I've been on my mental health journey for a long time, and my one piece of advice is take care of yourself. If you need to step away, step away. If you need to talk to someone, talk to someone. It took 37 years for me to do that, um, and I want other people to know that there are people who might feel broken, like myself at the time. We're out here. We're with you. So that's one thing that I really always try to get in there. The where you can find me, Eric P. Rhodes on Twitter, and ericprhodes.com is my website and portfolio.
Man, it's super beautiful. Like your heart shines through. You are like the super passionate, authentic person, unafraid of anything, heart of gold. I have a lot of love and gratitude for what you do. Thank you for joining us on NFT Sundays. I'm Colborn Bell, Museum of Crypto Art, artist, historian, just all around great person, Eric Rhodes.
Breaking news.